Hi everyone, this is Robin, and this is the last week this week for week 3. So last week we were still sort of getting organized for the course. So you had some optional learning activities. I created videos where I presented the results of the pre-class survey and the expectation exercise. You also had assignments that you did with your group and assignments that you did by yourself. So in terms of assignments that you did with your group, there were really 3 things you did. The first was I put you in your group, I put you in your learning teams, so you had a chance to get to know each other and, check in with each other, say hi, that sort of thing. And then you had 2 collaborative projects that you worked on. The first was to create a team charter, how you would work together as a learning team. And the second was to do the part 2 exercise of the characteristics of an effective leader. So this is where you reviewed the work that we did last week on the best and worst leader exercise. And you as a group said, based on this information, based on our own beliefs, what are the characteristics, no more than 10, of an effective leader? So it's just a way for you to further clarify your thinking on an effective leader. So I got feedback from some of the groups that everybody in your group wasn't participating. So 2 things that I would say to that. First of all, everybody participate. The second thing I would say to that is this is what leadership is like, right? Leadership, whether it's formal or informal leadership, is working with a group of people trying to get things done. So part of the process of working together is figuring out how we're going to get things done. Now, having said that, everybody should be a contributing, participating member of the team. So if you haven't, please do that. And then you also had some assignments where you were working alone. So I strongly suggested that you create a plan to manage the readings that you're going to be doing this week. You're going to be reading out of journals throughout the semester, leadership journals, and you are going to be reading leadership blogs throughout the semester. And so I suggested that you use an RSS reader. I suggested in particular that you use Feedly in order to manage those blogs. So again, it's going to cut down by a huge percent the amount of time that it takes you to read your leadership blogs, because you essentially, as you know, can just subscribe to them and then the new blog posts come to you instead of you having to go out and read all those individual blogs. The other thing that The other thing that I asked you to do was to expand your list of journals and blogs and to read at least 1 blog. Again, we have 2 resources that we've started to create in this class. One is a Google document that has a list of journals that we find valuable, and another is a document that has a list of leadership-related blogs that we find valuable. And so 2 things that I want you to do with those resources throughout the semester. One is to continue to add to them. So as you find additional journals, check the list and see, and if it's not on there, add it. As you find blogs that are useful, and interesting, check the list, and if this blog isn't on it, add it so that everybody can take advantage of these resources. The second thing I want you to do, in addition to adding to these 2 lists, is to take advantage and use these 2 lists. So as you are looking to read another blog article or read another journal article, go to the list and see what journals and blogs other people have found useful and consider taking a read from one of those. It's not only a time saver because you don't have to Google and hope that you can find something interesting, but it's also pre-vetted. It's a curated list, right? Someone has already said, I find this valuable. So that gives you a better chance that you will find it valuable too. The other thing that I asked you to do this week was to give yourself participation points. It's not practical for Chandra and I to grade your forums this week because there weren't forums this week. The work that you did in your small groups working on these 2 activities. So I asked you to give yourself points. All right, all of that was last week. Let's talk about this week. So this week we are moving a little more deeply into the content. So there's several learning activities for this week. The first thing is I have a couple of videos that I made that I want you to watch. The first is a very brief overview of organizations and what it means to be an organization. And the second is an introduction to competencies. So why an introduction to competencies? Well, that leads us to the second thing you're going to do, which is you're going to be reading our own competency model. And so I have put together a competency model for this class. As you know, we don't have a textbook, but what I have done is created a somewhat generic competency model. So as I talk about in the framework, I did not go through the actual work of creating a customized competency model, which would have meant interviewing a bunch of students and vetting it and that sort of thing. But I did use some very common leadership competencies. And when you look at our leadership competency model, you'll see that I have divided it into 3 sections: leading yourself, leading others, and leading the organization. And in fact, those competencies are the basis of what we're going to be learning throughout the rest of the semester. So just from kind of a progression standpoint, we went from you creating your best leader, worst leader, and adding to that list. Then last week, you as a group saying, but from that whole big list in our own perspective, what does it mean to be an effective leader? To this week, where we have a competency model that takes those characteristics of effective leaders and provides a little more structure to them. So that competency model is something that we're going to use, as I said, for the basis of the class. So we're going to be revisiting it throughout the semester. And then I also have a short reading for you that just talks a little bit about leadership theory and competency frameworks from other organizations. Again, just to give you a little bit of context as to leadership competency models. And then I also have some optional readings for you if you're interested in learning more. All right, in terms of assignments, so you have an annotated bibliography that's due at the end of this week. As a reminder, that annotated bibliography can be on a journal article or on a blog article. Whatever it needs to be, of course, it needs to have enough substance that you can write an annotated bibliography on it. So this shouldn't be an annotated bibliography on just some article or blog post that you found, but one that you found interesting and useful. And so we're going to take this annotated bibliography, your annotated bibliography, and instead of submitting it to me for grading, you're actually going to put it on a Google document. So that means there's going to be 52 annotated bibliographies in this one Google document. So it sounds like it's going to be kind of big and unwieldy. This is the first time I've done it with 52 students, so we'll see. Maybe it will be big and unwieldy. But you'll see that when you look at the Google document that I've asked you to come up with a keyword that identifies the content of your annotated bibliography. And I'm hoping that we can use that to sort these so that we can put a little bit more organization and structure to this list. So why am I having you do it in a Google document? Again, this is a way to create a resource, a curated, pre-vetted resource for everyone else in the class. So what this is going to be are 52 annotated bibliographies of articles that people in this class found useful. So when you go to read articles in the future, you can glance through the annotated bibliography and say, this sounds like an article I'd be interested in, and then go read that. So that's what we're going to do with it. So they will be graded, but you're not submitting them through an assignment link like you normally would on Moodle. You're going to be putting them in this Google document. We'll cross our fingers and hope that this actually works well for us. I think it should. My only concern is 52 students, but we'll work with it and we'll see how it goes. All right, so other things. I want you to continue reading leadership-related journal articles and blog posts. You're going to be doing that throughout the semester. Remember, we don't have a textbook. So part of what we're doing in lieu of a textbook is we are engaging with the content that is just out and available on leadership. If you have not done so, make sure you order the course pack. Again, we don't have a textbook, but we do have a couple of case studies that I want you to buy. And so the first page of your syllabus tells you how to do that. When you go online and order them, you get them immediately. But still, I would like you to do it this week to make sure that you have them when we need them. Graduate students, you need to continue working on the leadership project. Your deliverable number 1, which basically says, here's what we're doing and here's why we're doing it. That's due week 4 next week, the end of next week. If you want to talk to me about your idea before the end of next week, that'd probably be a good idea. I'm happy to talk with you and give you my thoughts on it before you turn in deliverable number 1. So that's completely up to you. If you want to touch base with me, let me know. And then finally, you have 2 discussion forums this week. So you have one discussion forum where you really are going to be talking about how your collaboration went last week. So of course you had 2 collaborative projects that you worked on together last week. I just threw you in the deep end of the pool. I realized that you hadn't worked together before. Now you're in a group. Now you've got to get 2 things done. So this is an opportunity for you to reflect on that and think what went well, what could have gone better, and what you in particular are going to do in order to help your group be more effective moving forward. So this idea of stopping and reflecting and figuring out how we can be better, that's something we're going to do throughout the semester. There's an organization called the Center for Creative Leadership, CCL, and what they have found through their research is the number one way that leaders learn is through reflection. I would say, based on no research, just my own personal anecdotal experiences, that the number one thing that leaders don't do is stop and reflect, right? Every minute of every day we have experiences, but we only learn from those experiences if we stop and reflect and think about them and sort of suck the learning out of them. So we're going to be doing that idea of reflection in order to improve throughout the semester. And then your second discussion this week is going to be on leadership competency models. So that's what we're doing this week. I'm very excited to dig into this leadership competency model and to hear your thoughts on the competency model as well. So let me know if you have questions on anything. Otherwise, I will see you online.